Hi everyone, welcome to the closing panel of WAC 2021. We're just waiting a few more minutes for all the attendees to join. All right, as people start rolling in, I'm just gonna start and get this closing panel started. So welcome everyone to the closing panel of WAC 2021. My name is Emma Jo and I'm the Director of Programs this year. I hope you all learned something new at your two plenary sessions this morning, met someone new at the networking events, and had an amazing time at the startup exhibition. Today, we will be hearing from two very special Canadian-based entrepreneurs, Alan and Eva Lau. Champion of the Canadian startup ecosystem, Alan is a co-founder and CEO of Wattpad, a global multi-platform entertainment company for original stories. He leads the company's efforts to transform how people discover, create, and engage with stories across multiple platforms, including the top-rated Wattpad app with over 90 million monthly users. Today, entertainment companies work with Wattpad to adapt stories for other platforms. These stories have become blockbuster movies, hit television series, and best-selling books around the world. Since its inception in 2006, Wattpad raised $118 million from top venture capitals in Silicon Valley, New York, Canada, and Asia. In January 2021, Naver, the South Korean internet conglomerate, announced the acquisition of the company in a transaction valued at more than an estimated $600 million. Alan is a three-time entrepreneur, co-founding Feed M8, a mobile advertising company, and Tire Wireless, a mobile gaming and technology company prior to Wattpad. Serial entrepreneur turned investors, Alan, along with his wife, Eva, are the founding partners of Two Small Fish Ventures, a fund that invests globally in early-stage transformative tech companies with strong network effects. They leverage their experience in building large-scale internet companies to help entrepreneurs build the next big thing. Acting as a managing director of Two Small Fish, Eva is one of the few women leading a venture fund in Canada. Due to her focus on investing in companies with strong network effects, Eva is regarded as an expert in this area, as she has created the ASSET framework, which has been adopted by many entrepreneurs and accelerators in developing their business strategies. Prior to starting Two Small Fish, Eva was Wattpad's head of community and content. She is also involved in numerous incubators and accelerator programs, including the Creative Destruction Lab at the Rotman School of Business and Ryerson University's DMZ. Eva also serves on the board of the Upside Foundation, Volta, and Branksome Hall. Please join me in welcoming the Laus to the virtual podium of the closing panel of WAC 2021.
Well, thanks so much, Emma, for introducing us. So you know what? I'm going to show my screen right now. Can everybody see my screen, or what are you guys seeing right now? There you go. Yeah. So it's our privilege to be here. So this is a short agenda of what we're going to be talking about today. Who we are, the Wattpad story, and how we're going to do, how did we democratize storytelling through innovations. And most importantly, we want to talk about our Canadian unfair advantage in the tech world. So, as Emma has just introduced us. So me and Alan are both immigrants to Canada. We came to Canada when we were teenagers. We both graduated from University of Toronto Engineering Department. We both are innovators, serial entrepreneurs. Most importantly, we are BH parents. So I'm going to actually turn it now to Alan and let him talk about the Wattpad story.
Yeah, before we talk about innovation and Canada's unfair advantage, I think it's important to spend a few minutes to talk about Wattpad. I hope most of you have heard about this or a user already, but you might not know the backstory, which is important because it ties to the innovation topic that we want to talk about, and also the Canada's unfair advantage. So as Emma mentioned, Wattpad today is a global multi-platform entertainment company. However, next slide, please. We have over 90 million monthly users, and I'm not going to spare you the details of all the numbers. But one thing I do want to zoom in on is the 50 languages that we supported. I'll come back to this point later. Even though we have 90 million monthly users today, the starting point, next slide, please. The starting point was fairly modest. This is, I'm not sure many of you would recognize this phone. This phone was the most popular phone in year 2007, and came from a company called Motorola. You probably don't know or never heard of this company, but I'm pretty sure some of you, when you were born, when you were 5-year-old, you probably would take your parents' phone and play some games on this phone. So you may have some memory about this, but if not, that's okay. This is how a phone looked like in 2007, and this is the time when we started the company. We started off with a reading app on this flip phone, black and white phone, that you can read maybe 5 lines of text, 7 lines of text at a time. That was the most advanced phone at that time. It was before the iPhone came out. iPhone only came out in the summer of 2007, so we were a little bit ahead of our time. So next slide, please. I also want to share with you the website, because the phone at that time, you can only read, you cannot upload anything. It's so primitive. So we had to build a website for people to, if you can read the tagline, read and share stories on your mobile phone. That's what we did back then, and this is still what we do right now. Of course, we are doing expanded into so many different areas now. But what I want you to pay attention to is, this is when we first launched version 1 in 2007, January, and pay attention to the left-hand side. We already supported 10 different languages, and really quickly, we supported over 20 languages. And because the idea at that time was, as much as we are based in Canada, Canada is a very tiny country, so we cannot, the market might be too small for us, and we want to make sure we can expand globally. And if we want to expand globally, we have to support so many different languages. And guess what? The first language that took off on the platform wasn't English. We were right. First language that took off on Wattpad was Vietnamese. So yeah, I've never been to Vietnam. I don't speak the language. In fact, I don't even know a single friend who is Vietnamese. All I know about Vietnam is I love the pho. It's very lovely food, but I don't know much about that. But this is a very important point, because for us to capture the as big an audience and make as big an impact as possible, global. So next slide, please. Well, because we launched the company a little bit ahead of our time, so I would say in the first 2-3 years we were really struggling. I think in the first year we thought we would have 1 million users, but after 1 year, towards the end of year 2007, we could only, we were kind of right, 1 million, but we missed by 3 zeros. So we only had 1,000 users at that time. So as a free product, 1,000 users is really, really tiny. In fact, I would even say we failed. But we did not give up. We keep on improving, and in a way, our vision was right, because for Wattpad to be successful, we needed 2 things. Number one, the phone capability has to be continuously improving so that people can read and eventually write very comfortably on these phones. And secondly, mobile internet has to be ubiquitous. At that time, there was no mobile internet. Remember I told you, you have to go to a website on your desktop, PC or Mac, upload the content, and you have there's no mobile internet from Rogers or Bell, so it's a very, very clunky experience. But we know that that will change, that time will come, and we were actually right. because a year after we launched, iPhone came out, and then Android came out a year later, and then as you know, everyone is connected to the internet all the time on the devices that you carry all the time. And we quickly changed the app on the flip phone to, you know, Apple, Android, and BlackBerry. Remember that BlackBerry device? You probably have never heard of that either. But anyway, we were on all those platforms, and that helped us help our user base start to take off. Next slide, please. But I want to share with you one email that I received from one of our users in the middle of 2009. You can read. I'm not going to read this out to you. I'm just going to pause for 10 seconds, let you read these two sentences. Why this is important? This is a life-changing email to me, because when we first started, of course, we think about the business. We think about how big we can be. But one thing I did not realize when we first started was the impact on people's lives. And this is a very, very good example that you can build a gigantic business and yet at the same time have a big impact, have a big positive impact in the world. And that's money cannot be measured, cannot measure. So next slide. So as I mentioned, today, 14 years or 14 and a half years after we started the company, we have 90 million users. But the growth wasn't linear. It took us 5 years, almost 1/3 of the journey to get to 0 to 1. But once we get to 1, growing from 1 to 10, from 10 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 80 or 90, it becomes, in a way, it becomes easier and easier and easier. All I want to say is the starting point is going to be very difficult. Success doesn't come overnight. It takes time. Next slide, please. And so far, you know, from year 2007 to year 2014, we were a reading and writing app, and at this point in time, we were still a reading and writing app. But this is also another life-changing environment, life-changing event for me, because in that summer, TV channel called TV5, they are one of the largest in the Philippines. They reach out to us. They want to produce a TV show that based on popular Wattpad stories. And we look at this partnership. Wow, looks like it's a match made in heaven, because we have these stories that are loved by millions of people already, but we don't know how to make movies. We don't know how to produce TV shows. They know how to do it, but what they did not have was stories validated by millions of users. That's the stories that are already popular. And then that year, that's September, I went to Philippines to meet with our users. You can see that there are 1,000 people. I only capture maybe 100 in the picture, but there are another 1,000 behind them. It was a massive, massive crowd in the Philippines. But I also on the highway, along the highway, I saw this billboard. That's the TV show. That's the partnership that we had with TV5. And this is the defining moment, because we changed ourselves, the company, from a reading and writing company to an entertainment company. Now we are producers of a TV show. Next slide, please. And around the same time, a story called After started to emerge on Wattpad. And that became the most popular story at that time. As you can see on the screen, 1.5 billion chapter reads, and millions of people became big fans, forming a big fandom around After. So we partner with Simon Schuster and turned this into a published book, and that became a New York Times bestseller and #1 best-selling book in Germany, in France, in Russia, and quite a few Latin American countries as well. The 5-book series, at one point 4 books were #1 in I think in Mexico or Colombia, and of course, as I mentioned, #1 in France and Germany as well. But that's not the end. Next slide, please. We also turned after into a movie. So the movie came out in 2019. It was one of the top grossing indie movie of the year, and we also won multiple People's Choice Award. The sequel, After We Collided, also came out last year, and it became once again top grossing movies, one of the top grossing movies in the world, #1 on iTunes when it was available digitally. And this is just one of the examples. In the middle, you see the Layers of Feather Hulu show that got 10 Emmy nominations. Now, we are a full-blown entertainment company, not just a reading and writing company anymore. But the way we do it is very interesting because we leverage the data and the built-in fan base to help us find the top hits on our platform. Next slide, please. So finally, a couple of weeks ago, we announced this acquisition. Naver is one of the largest internet companies in the world. It may not be a well-known name in North America, but this is absolutely the largest internet company in South Korea and one of the largest in the world. And Wattpad is going to join the Naver family, and this transaction is estimated to be over $600 million US. So next slide, please. This sounds like a good finale of season 1, but that's not the end. We are just in the beginning of season 2. So there's so much more when we are under the umbrella of a bigger family, so we can do things faster, innovate faster, and most importantly, allow us to expand our global ambition much faster. So we are not done yet. There are more to come. Next slide. So a few lessons that I want to highlight to you. #1, overnight success is few and far between. You have to work hard for many years. You have to be gritty. You have to not giving up. You have to understand all those failures, all those challenges along the way, because it's not a straight line up and to the right. It's a roller coaster. #2, it's a journey, and sometimes the outcome might not be exactly what you anticipated. And if you asked me 14 years ago, would we be producing movies? I would say you must be crazy. How can we possibly be producing movie? But all those little things or important milestones, you don't figure out on day one. You discover that as part of your journey. And #3, finally, I want to highlight to you why we could do what other people couldn't do maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. In the way I highlighted, mobile phone capability and mobile data were the 2 things that I highlighted. Those are new technologies at the time that enable us to become the global company that you see today. So I'm going to go through these bullet points, but I just want to highlight a few things that wasn't possible before, but now it's becoming possible, at least in the past 10 years, became possible for us to build a company like this. Is because now we can capture the global opportunity. Now, because mobile is ubiquitous. Now we can, the world has the ability to analyze a huge, massive amount of data. Next slide, please. So I'm going to pass the mic to Eva to talk about democratization of storytelling.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. And for those of you who know me long enough, you would have known that other than the two co-founders, Alan and his other partner, Ivan, I was the very first one who worked in a team of Wattpad. So when Alan and Ivan finally had some tractions with the user base back in 2000, late 2008, early 2009, that's when I was being summoned to join the team, because they were very, very busy with many users coming onto the platform. So I took on a role as the head of community and content, and my job was to work with basically all of our users, understanding what their needs are, hear about their complaints and resolve the issues. One thing that was very interesting, and I want to highlight it, is that because of the access of technology, and there isn't any gatekeeper on Wattpad to kind of tell you are a good writer, so you have to be promoted. We let the users to choose their favorite stories. And what that means is everyone are on the same playing field. So that allows many different types of writers to come join Wattpad and share their own stories. So as you can see here, I don't know if you guys recognize the top right, on the girl with the little white piece of paper. She's Beth Rickles. Guess what she wrote on Wattpad? It was the one and only The Kissing Booth. Now that has turned it into a movie, but Beth shared her story when she was only 15, 16 years old, and it was a winner in the Waddies Award at the time. And you can see the lady in the middle with the orange hat, that's Margaret Atwood. Margaret was, has always been a great supporter of Wattpad, because she understands that this is the platform that allows people to share stories. This is the platform that allows people to share their creativity, but at the same time, read the stories they love. So you can see how Wattpad has democratized the storytelling from a creative perspective. People come on and write their own stories. And not only that, as Alan highlighted, that we supported multiple languages right off from the get-go. We knew that English, specifically in the Canadian market, it's very small. So we branched out and allowed people to share the different languages, from the different culture all over the world. And that also democratized stories to cross boundaries. I don't know if you have ever imagined reading a stories that is of the Asian culture, the one in the middle, you can see that, they are wearing all those ancient costume. They may be based in, Vietnam. But a lot of those writers are actually writing those kind of culturally native stories, but they could actually be writing it in English. So you can see that all in a sudden, that kind of what we call cross-pollinations from a cultural perspective, it's happening every day on Wattpad. That yet again democratize the sharing of culture, the sharing of appreciation just among the globe. So I just want to highlight that. How could Wattpad have done, did what I've just shown you? I can all sum it up back to what I call the Canada's unfair advantage. So Alan, you want to kind of highlight some of the unfair advantage that you have noticed just in our team?
Yeah, so let me share a couple of facts to you first. English, of course, is the most common or popular language in the world. But if you look at the people who speak English as the first language, it's actually quite small, only 360 million people. That's roughly 5% of the world's population. Most of the people who can speak English, they are speaking this as a second language. So we are the minorities here. So for us to capture the global market, English alone is not enough. I can say that English alone is not enough. However, if you look at Toronto, this is something very, very unique. I don't believe we are the only one, but we are probably the only, perhaps only 5 big cities, big metropolitans in the world that has so many immigrants. Half the Toronto's population were born outside of Canada. This is something very, very unique. So next slide. So just a quick recap, we kind of touched on this already, but this visualization would help you understand how global Wattpad is. We have, in addition to 90 million people in 50 languages and on 5 continents are reading and sharing stories every month. We also have 90 culturally relevant movies or TV shows in development and on 5 continents right now. Immediately behind me is a poster. It's called Turn On. It's a romantic comedy. Guess where it is streaming right now? It's streaming in Indonesia. We have another TV show just launched 2 weeks ago called Slow Dancing in Singapore. But that's not the end. We have partners in Germany. We are working with Netflix on a few projects internationally as well. So this is where we are today. But the reason we can do this, next slide. The reason we can do this is because our team, almost all our employees, they are based in Toronto. We have 200 people now. And I would say 180 of them are in Toronto. And I'm not going to repeat the numbers on the right-hand side. You can read, but half the company are female, almost half people of color. And that is giving us the unfair advantage because me as an immigrant, I can say this, I can share this with you firsthand. I understand the West and I also understand the East. I don't mean to say Korean is the same as Chinese or Japanese or Filipino. I don't suggest that, but at least I fully appreciate the difference between the East and West. And that knowledge is so important and in helping us expand our user base and partnerships globally while doing while building the company almost exclusively in Toronto. Next slide.
Well, so now, I want to kind of tell you a little bit more about how we are investing in the future. So while Alan is still very busy, with Wattpad, building a global entertainment company, I left Wattpad once I've helped them reach the tens of millions of users mark. And why I wanted, why I wanted to do that, it was because, first of all, I think I needed to spend more time with my children at the time, but at the same time, I figured something is really lacking in the Toronto tech ecosystem. When we look at Silicon Valley, they had a lot of success in the innovation space. Google, Facebook, Apple, they were all born in those areas. And a lot of the startups have easy access to the early employees of those tech giants in the valley. But whereas in Canada, we have a lot of great entrepreneurs building companies, especially in the last decade, but they are still very busy building, and not a lot of them have the cycle to recycle their knowledge specifically and capital into the ecosystem. So me and Alan decided to found 2 small fish ventures. I started off as an angel investor, but because of our unique experience in building Wattpad, I decided to become a venture capitalist and raise my own fund. So in 2019, I become the very few women who started a venture capital company here in Toronto. Actually, last year, last year, just before the pandemic, I closed a total of $12 million, and some of the backers, including CIBC and some of the high net worth family offices, and most importantly, entrepreneurs. So I have what I call the creator circle within my funds, and a lot of those tech giants, CEO, and founders have invested through my fund. Not only do they want to kind of recycle their capital, but most importantly, recycle their knowledge of how to build Wealthsimple, FreshBooks, Wave accounting, and Win Mobile, for them to have the opportunity to reinvest their knowledge into our ecosystem. So my focus has been looking at transformative technologies with teams that have a global mindset, that they want to bring innovations, to the world. So I'm very privileged to invest in all these smart people, and you can see that, they range from a medical science type technology company like BenchSci, customer support applications like Ada. So if you actually call into Rogers and TELUS right now, the chances of you deal with the Ada chatbot, a lot. The one in the middle, Skip the Dishes. So we were the very first angel investor in Skip the Dishes. Yes, they get acquired by Just Eat, a few years ago, but we were very proud to have backed them. And I also invested in a company like ShareTax. Why I want to highlight ShareTax? So let me tell you why. ShareTax makes unbreakable pantyhose. Me as a woman VC here in Canada, that alone brings in a lot of diversity. Guess what happened whenever I told people that I am an investor at ShareTax? I say, do you know that they make unbreakable pantyhose? Those pantyhose are awesome. Most of the men who are investors will ask me this question. Why would you want to invest in companies that makes unbreakable pantyhose? Don't women just need one pair and never buy another pair? That's a bad business. I'm like, do you wear socks and have only one pair of socks and you just never change and wash them? And that was the moment they're like, oh, okay. Now I understand why do we need more women into the ecosystem, because we bring in so much diversity and different perspective into just investment alone. So a couple other companies here that I want to highlight, specifically the one in the center, Stratum AI. Stratum AI were founded by two quantum engineers. And what they are doing, they are bringing machine learning into the mining business. So they are the one who help discover precious metal in a much more environmentally friendly way, and at the same time giving those miners the yield that they want. So you can see that having more and more investors looking at different opportunities, and not only just investing in companies that are building the ecosystem in Canada, these companies are actually bringing out technology and innovations all over the world. Stratum AI, they are now right now talking to customers from Australia and Japan, because mining is a business that's global. So because of the DNA in Canada that we are diverse in population and we are very inclusive in the culture as well. So once I become a VC, I actually have spent some time going coast to coast just within Canada and want to understand what's going on in the tech ecosystem in the different provinces. Guess what I've noticed? Everywhere, innovation is really booming. From Next 36 in Toronto, DMC in Toronto, Mars Creative Destruction Lab. We also have a huge community also in the Waterloo region, Community Tech, Velocity Garage, and excuse me, even in Schulich in York University, they have a startup group. If we look outside of Ontario, we have Propel and Collabs in the East Coast. And then on the West Coast, we have Accelerate, Okanagan, New Ventures BC. I actually did a Google search just before this presentation today. There are over 40 tech accelerators just in Canada. And there's one thing in common. Just look at all the faces. There are people who are Canadians through and through. Chinese Canadians, African Canadians, Southeast Asian Canadians. Collectively, we work together and building global products. Everywhere I go, I cannot believe the diversity that I see in all of the ecosystem. This is really our time. When the world needs people who have global mindsets, that are aware of the needs around the world, appreciate each other's culture, ethnicity, and different background. I strongly believe that this is now for us Canadian to take the center stage of innovations in the world. Why? I strongly believe that global citizens build global products, and this is the unfair advantage. And Alan and I have proven that we could bring innovations in the entertainment world just by democratizing the storytelling platform. So I am very sure that if you put your heart to it, you can bring innovations and democratize even more frontiers and build global products. So that's the end of our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eva and Alan, for your insightful remarks regarding the Canadian advantage in the stage of innovation. Especially over the past year, diversity, equity, and inclusion has been a global priority, really, and it's truly inspiring to hear how Wattpad allows the world to have its own voice, and to hear how both of you are really trying to help these small ventures build the next big thing. So now we're going to move on to a quick 10-minute Q&A, and we're going to try to get through as many questions as possible. So I'm just going to look through the questions we have. And our first question from the audience is, as both of you have had extensive experience in the technology industry, how would you describe the progression of technology and the internet over the past few decades? Were there any key milestones you remembered, such as the year in which computers became widespread or when social media became mainstream? And in what areas do you believe there is great opportunity for technological innovation in the coming years?
I'm going to let Alan talk about the past, and I'm going to talk about the future.
Okay. I think there are so many important milestones, but I'll highlight maybe 2 or 3. First, the availability of a computer for the general public. That's in the 80s. Before that, only large enterprises were able to use computer. So that's life-changing. And in the 90s, the availability of the internet. Internet is so important because it's the first technology that is real-time, free, global, and connected everyone pretty much on the planet, and that's why it's so important. And then social and mobile in the last decade or so, they came almost at the same time, and that's also important because not only like the internet connecting everyone, it's actually on your device. You can't get away from the internet anymore. It's with you when you're sleeping. I know that you teenagers always have your phone sleeping right next to you. So this is also another life-changing technology. So Eva, you want to talk about the future?
Absolutely. So if we look into the future, there are a couple of things that I want to highlight that I think is actually crucial for us. First of all, machine learning and AI, it's absolutely going to be taking over in every single aspect of our lives, from financial data, understanding how users are spending their money, where the credit risk and opportunity to help those people who in need. Those are all AI driven. And then from a computer vision perspective, also, you know, there are actually already applications. You know, when we're talking about computer vision AI, we usually think about surveillance, you know, kind of like facial recognition. But no, if we actually think about in the science of cancer treatment, in the science of, you know, heart disease, there are a lot of those kind of computer vision AI as well. You know, how computer can understand a lot of the cancer scan and being able to identify whether there's it's really cancer or just malignant, those kind of computer AI as well. So I think AI is something that is going to be transformative in all ways. I also think that what we call smart city, it's also going to be a very transformative. Self-driving car, autonomous driving cars. And now that we are in a pandemic, everybody must have experienced food delivery, grocery delivery, and all those kind of things. What this all means right now is our daily life, it's going to go through a ginormous transformation when it comes to digitization. The city has to actually reinvent itself. Transportations, more bike lanes and then an autonomous car, and then logistics when it comes to just supply chain management and delivery, the last mile right to your doorstep, so that your Uber Eats are still going to be warm. All those kind of things. It's all part of what I call the smart city initiative. So I think this is going to becoming more real and real. I already talked to a few autonomous aircraft company trying to kind of bring more supply into the indigenous area without a pilot. So you can see that all these innovations are actually coming, and hopefully the inequality in our world will actually be smaller in terms of the gap. So another one certainly is cryptocurrency / blockchains. This is a very, very interesting area, and I think it's going to impact the economy even more in the future. So for those of you who are studying economics right now, I encourage you to take a look at what cryptocurrency is, because I think in 10 years time, some countries will actually be running on their own crypto, and I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for your answers. They definitely helped our global audience. And before we conclude your remarks, I just wanted to ask if there's any final messages or advice you would like to give to our global audience of change makers and future entrepreneurs.
I'm going to start, and then I'm going to let Alan do the closing. I think, right now, be part of the BH community. I want to speak specifically to all the girls. You can do it. You absolutely can. And especially when it comes to innovations, this is the time that the world needs us the most. Why? Because we bring in such a different perspective and help entrepreneurs and help companies to build not just for the men, but for women all over the world. So this is the time for us to shine, and you can do it.
Yeah, maybe I'll add to that. I think most of the audience are in Toronto, even though I know this conference is supposed to be worldwide. Anyone from anywhere can join us. But for those who are living in Toronto, I'm looking at you. You are super, super lucky to be in Toronto, because it has one of the best schools in the world, many of the best universities in the world. The godfather of AI, Professor Jeff Hinton is a professor at U of T. In terms of capital funding, startups, we have a lot of capital in Canada as well. The tech ecosystem, the innovation ecosystem is thriving. So, and I can go on and on and on, and of course, including what I talked about previously, half the population in Toronto are immigrants. We have the global perspective. Nobody else have this type of advantages. So the combination, we are in the best position to take on the world, and we're in the best position to become the best innovators in the world. So leverage that, take advantage of that, and go do it.
Once again, these are all the questions we have time for today, and just thank you both so much on behalf of all the participants on this webinar for taking the time to answer our questions brought forward. And I know that all the attendees will take these positive messages with them, and your personal insights on the importance of living in a multicultural country like Canada and globally, and fostering a community. And so this formally concludes the closing panel of WAC 2021. So once again, thank you both so much for coming today.
Thank
All
you.
right, before I hand it back over to Lauren and Krishna, who are our chairs to close off WAC 2021, I would like to extend a huge thank you to our two lovely chairs and on behalf of the entire WAC team. And I know we've heard many times that this year has been truly unpredicted and unprecedented, and I can't think of two better people to lead the reimagining of WAC and the actualization of our first ever virtual and global conference. You two continuously encourage new ideas and help to make our team's bold vision become a reality. And you both should be incredibly proud of this year's conference. And I can say with certainty that the endless meetings and tireless efforts put into the creation of this historic moment has truly paid off. So now really over to both of you this time.
Thanks, Emma, for your very kind words. So to close off the conference today, we're going to say a quick word on Sprint. In a world filled with Zoom meetings and mask wearing, one constant remains: innovate or die. We must continuously seek ways to ideate, create, and adapt to stay alive and thrive. At Sprint, you'll be given the opportunity to immerse yourself in an 8-week virtual startup incubator to reimagine society by bringing your most disruptive ideas to life. In this 2-month online program, students will tap into their potential and learn how to develop and market business ideas with the help of other young innovators, industry mentors, and successful entrepreneurs. This is an opportunity for students to initiate real business ideas and gain experiential learning opportunities to apply what they've learned and solve the world's biggest problems. As a secondary school student, you're eligible to apply to our Sprint cohort. Don't wait for the next opportunity. Sprint to this one. And with that, WAC 2021 has come to an end. We hope you've had a long day filled with fruitful discussion, novel learnings, and new connections. So I will keep it brief. Krishna will not. Before we conclude, a few thank yous are in order. First of all, a huge thank you to our fantastic tech team who helped us reimagine and build the conference from the ground up in a virtual world. Thank you to our speakers for sharing their expertise and perspectives with us today. We greatly appreciate the time and care you put into your presentations and into answering our questions. Thank you to all the professional and student startups that joined us today for sharing your stories and inspiring the next generation of entrepreneurs. Thank you to the WAC supervisors, Mr. Baker, Ms. Douglas, Mr. Jagoon, and Ms. Erb, and external advisors, Sabrina and Kayla from Fluid Events and Casey from GoToWebinar. We're so grateful for all of your unwavering support throughout this process. And finally, a massive thank you to our entire executive, senior, and ambassador teams for working tirelessly for the past year to make everything run smoothly today. Without you, there was no question of doing something so daring like this. To actually run our first international and virtual conference, all of our success belongs to you.
Thank you so much, Lauren. So as the day draws to yet another happy conclusion, and I have an unorthodox, unprecedented audience before me, I'd like to take a few more moments to share a little bit about myself, my WAC story, and what I've learned throughout this journey. For those of you who may not know me, again, my name is Krishna Bambuwale. I am a son, a twin, a brother, a friend, a student, and yes, a co-chair of this year's World Affairs Conference. Like today's event, my life and my journey with WAC has not been all rosy. In fact, it has been one of winding paths, circuitous routes, and labyrinth-like roads. In grade 9, I joined my current high school, Upper Canada College, located in Toronto, Canada. With my twin brother, Karam, who many of you have seen today, and my family, it was our 4th move in a span of 17 short years. Once again, we were presented with an opportunity to explore new offerings, meet new people, and appreciate a radically different culture than the ones we had grown fond of in New Delhi, London, and later Philadelphia. Constant change throughout my life has taught me the importance of agility and adaptability in an unpredictable world. During my first year at UCC, I had the chance to attend the World Affairs Conference for the first time. It was very, very different from the one you've seen today, but nonetheless, eye-opening to receive exposure to such important topics from such incredible speakers. Nuclear technology, big data, climate change. As a 14-year-old boy, I remember the chance to be a part of these conversations without any prior knowledge. Remember, you don't need to know it all. You just need to be willing to listen, learn, and when you're eventually ready, contribute. So like any motivated student, I decided to be a part of this developing team and applied for the next year's conference team. Applications opened around the summertime, and in savoring those sweet early days of summer, I ended up submitting my application late after an already extended deadline. On principle, Sean Hui, the elected chair at that time, who today is like a brother to me, refused to recognize my application. To all of you listening today, there's one lesson I could impart. It's to never miss a deadline. It's just simply not worth it. So after months of email exchanges, Sean, he decided to give me an opportunity. I was stubborn, persistent, and adamant throughout the summer months. I believe that Sean did not know what he was missing out on. He eventually made me the assistant head of strategy for this conference. It may sound like something special, but I assure you, it was really a nothing role. There was no formal recognition whatsoever. I did not have tasks to complete, but it didn't matter whatsoever. I spent that year in the trenches, as I call them, watching and learning from a distance as to how a conference like this runs and the sustained efforts inputted by all stakeholders involved, students, faculty, and speakers. Year 2 was different, however, radically different, if you will. In our 38th year, we needed to revitalize our team partnership with our sister school, Branksome Hall, and truly innovate a dying conference. And so we did. Prioritizing collaboration, dissent, and inclusion, we added an entrepreneurial thread to the conference known as Sprint. It was successful, and exactly 1 year ago, I was elected to be chair of this conference from UCC, and I thought to myself, here we go, an opportunity to do something bigger than ever. Luckily, my enthusiasm was shared. We had over 100 students apply between our 2 host schools to join this team. We eventually chose 60, and we never looked back. Robert Frost, the eminent English poet, once said something especially profound. You may have heard it before. 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. If there's one thing that's clear to me today, it is that unconventional success requires unconventional paths. With the WAC team this year, we've really done everything based on a vision and a few core values that have grounded us. We have not had the benefit of foresight, nor an understanding of what may work. We've had to seek discomfort, pivot, and try something new time and time again. But throughout this journey of putting on this conference, I've learned the importance of falling in love with the process and not the outcome. If we could just have 1,000 students joining us from 15 countries and 60 schools in an instant, I would refuse. Because in life, we must resist the easy path in favor for the one that's unknown and challenges us, the one that allows us to make mistakes and later endows us with invaluable insight, the one where you're able to learn something about yourself, your interests, and what you truly love. So on a more optimistic and reflective note, I ask myself, what did we do today? Well, in short, we found a way to unite the world in the toughest of times. We have students from Geelong, Australia, joining us now at 5 in the morning their time, pizzas in hand. We have students joining us from Kenya, South Korea, England, Germany, New Zealand, India, and China. How often does that happen? Almost never is the truth. Margaret Mead once said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. We might be 1,000, but I assure you, we are a small group and we will always be that small group. Hold on to that. Trust me. Today, we had the opportunity to listen and learn from some incredible speakers. It started in the morning with Andy Chisholm, where aside from an unexpected moment where we were all deferred from reality, we heard about a new perspective of sustainability and its vital intersection with finance. Mr. Chisholm discussed the union of environment, social equity, and economic vitality as we embark on what he called the Great Reset, an unparalleled opportunity for us to capture, not a hopeless burden for us to overcome. Dr. Clark, during our keynote, honed in on our theme of Together Towards Tomorrow, as he eloquently emphasized the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Once an oral wallpaper, that is oral and oral, A-U-R-A-L, let's make it an inflection point where we finally turn in a positive direction forever and ever. And now, to close, for those interested, please stay connected to the small group through our Instagram and Discord channels, which we will continue to promote post-conference. To all of you listening and engaged today, Let's make a pledge to not let today go to waste. As students, we've converged from around the world because we want to do more, and we want to do better for one another. Take the insights from today and let them manifest. Let's be action-oriented, and let's be together in our fight towards a better tomorrow. I'm truly proud to be a part of such a motivated and ambitious group of students. Thank you all for making this such an extraordinary learning experience for me, and I look forward to staying connected far beyond this day. A reminder that the Student Startup Exhibition will run for an additional 30 minutes right after this. Please find the appropriate link sent to your emails. In the famous words of Poet Laureate Amanda Gorman, be the light, see the light, and as always, roll WAC. Thank you so much and stay well. Cheers.